Welcome to A Little TLC, the podcast where we embark on an enlightening journey through the ever-evolving world of education. I'm your host, Heather Volchko, and I'm on a mission to empower educators and change makers to skillfully navigate the intricacies of serving our most exceptional students. Every month, we'll be exploring a unique and timely theme in a mini-series format, whether we're digging into inclusive teaching practices, addressing student mental health challenges, or exploring the intricate connection between our personal and professional lives. Each month offers an in-depth exploration of weekly topics that truly matter. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired because this is A Little TLC. All right, so we are back for week 2. We were talking all about growth this month. And like I said last week, I have got Miss Makayla and Ann Potter here with me, kind of two ends of the spectrum here. And this week is all about kind of professional development, networking, and just us as learners. And if that shows up in our career, in our profession, or if that just shows up in what we're interested in and what we're drawn to, that is the conversation for this week. So I'm going to kick it off with kind of a very open-ended question and say, so what do you enjoy learning about?
That is ridiculously open-ended because that depends on the day of the week, the time of the day, the millennium that we happen to be in. Because I've picked up for fun reading, how do you infuse mathematics into kid literature, just for some fun light reading.
Sure.
And then I've also picked up some, what's my next needlework project going to be? And what's the next corner of the world to travel to? So it's very much stream of consciousness, what pops into my brain today to say, what do I want to learn about now?
So when you're thinking about, well, what do I like learning about? What are some of those things that draw you in, that makes it interesting, and that makes you start learning about it and then keep asking more questions to learn even more about it?
For me, it's history. I like history.
Tell me more.
I like learning about things that happened in the past and who if it was something that was really big, something that was really bad or something, learning about who might have done it, why were they like wanting to do it, and things like that. That keeps it interesting because you get to learn about the person who might have wanted it to happen, or about the people that might wanted it to happen, and you get to know them and get to see how they were thinking and stuff. So that's really interesting.
Professionally, I'll encounter somebody that makes me curious, where if I'm in a classroom and I have a child that I just can't reach, I'll start doing some research and learning that says, okay, these are the characteristics I see. What can I do to enhance my skill set to try to help the child? And that extends to some of the adults too. If they're struggling with a particular area, we've had a conversation and I'm curious, because every time I'm curious and then go dig a little deeper, that enhances my toolkit for what I can do. And by the same token, in outside of professional interests, meet somebody doing something slightly different. Had an opportunity recently to see somebody who's doing a little bit different style of needlework than I'd seen before, and spent a little time just exchanging thoughts and ideas on how-tos, and again, expanding my, gee, I wonder. So then I ask questions. And for me, as a learner, I ask a lot of questions. And I've always prefaced a lot of my interfaces with, I'm not afraid to ask a lot of questions, and I'm freely willing to admit there's a bucket load of stuff that I don't know anything about or know just a thimbleful about. And for those of you who no longer speak sewing and thimble, it was a little thing you put on the tip of your finger so you would stick the needle through the thread and not hurt your finger. But it's a very, very tiny measurement. So I know a thimbleful about a lot of things, and then get into a situation where I'm going, I wonder, or how do you? And now with the beauty of the internet, it's evolved over the last 30 years. There's a lot of resources for getting answers to questions out there.
I love that it's kind of coming from curiosity, right? Like if it's history and I don't know because I wasn't there, and I want to learn about stuff that I didn't experience, right? Or if it's a bunch of stuff about something that I only know a little bit about, and I'm curious to learn some more about it, right? I think it's really neat that both of your responses were kind of, I'm just curious, right? Like I don't know, and I know that I don't know, but I wonder. Right? It kind of like pushes us into, well, then maybe I can learn some more.
In post-COVID times, I can figure out how Zoom works.
Whereas me and Miss
Whereas
Makayla live straight through that.
I go initially click, 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 done. And some of it's not only driven by curiosity, but driven by interest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there are things that I'm curious about and dig a little deeper and go, yeah, I'm kind of tapped out here. Don't care enough to dig deeper.
Is that the same for you, Makayla?
Yeah.
So then when you're digging in and kind of having that curiosity of I wonder, right? And you haven't gotten to that point where you're like, good enough. Like I'm no longer curious anymore. So for you, how like kind of what keeps you going? Is it just more and more questions and just the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know and so now you have more questions? Like what is it that keeps you kind of looking and asking and seeking and staying curious?
I see it in a way like a puzzle. So like you figure out one part of the story and then like you kind of just want the whole image. So it's like
Hmm,
you get one piece of the puzzle and then you're just closer to seeing the whole thing come together.
that's really cool. I like that picture.
Hmm. And I had a similar kind of analogy with how far down the rabbit hole am I going to journey? Because I'm curious about this and I learn this little bit of a nugget, and then that poses another question that then I have to go down that path. And then that says, no, I didn't think about that. And then I look up at the clock and it's 4 in the morning and I go, okay, the rabbit hole is now closed. It's time to call this a day. We will continue this journey tomorrow
Or later today.
or later today. Um, but yeah, it's a series of links that starts with a particular question. And then just like filling in the puzzle pieces, add another piece to the puzzle, flesh out the image a little bit more. And then that may lead to another question where you follow that puzzle piece down.
I was just having a conversation with someone who's recently joined our team because she has an area of expertise that I have been trying to like spending a lot of time trying to learn in the past like 4 or 5 months or so. And I was, asking questions and learning and, trying to build this puzzle, right? And then I basically got to the point where I realized this puzzle's huge. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to build this puzzle. So I was like, I need someone who's built more of this puzzle already, and I can stop looking for pieces and they can just get me going. And so it was funny, we were having that conversation and I kind of said, "Hey, like I need you to tell me, should I keep building the puzzle or like am I just building a puzzle you've already built, right? And like I can move into like a different part of the puzzle." And it was a cool conversation to be able to say, like, I am learning, I am growing, and I do know more, and I am incredibly curious. But I also have you in my corner now. And so is this something that I myself need to, be? Or is that something that when I have those questions, I can go to you and then you can take care of those things or you can help me understand instead of me going and finding those pieces and trying to put it together myself? Can we do this together? So, do you have any kind of situations? I know we talked about using the internet. We talked about, going to people that might know things that we don't know. But I'm thinking, do you have any of those situations where, yes, you're curious, but you can kind of rely on people around you to be like, I'm curious and I want to learn more, but you can do it. I don't need to do it. Like, do you have any of those stories like, "I'm gonna go to you because I know you're really good at this, and actually, can we just do this together so that you can use those skills and I can use other skills, and together we can create this really cool thing?"
At one point, going back probably 10 or 12 years, when technology first started to enter the classrooms in a large way, when you discovered what the Promethean boards, the whiteboards, which are now
Mhm.
standard equipment in classrooms. They weren't back in the day. And curriculum started coming out that utilized way more technology. Now, you think the old teachers now are dinosaurs? Go back to that period of time. They were really dinosaurs. They were the chalkboard era.
Oh,
And then you got infused with here are these new curriculums that employ all of these technical components. And some of the older teachers were losing their minds. Just their stress level was absolutely off the chart. They were frustrated all the time because they couldn't make the tech work. So what we wound up doing is recognizing among it was basically across the primary teachers. Um, some had more technical skills than others. So we decided in order for everybody to not lose their minds and for the more tech savvy teachers to not spend their entire day teaching the stress teachers,
mhm.
a couple of nights over a course of a week, we got together, we ordered pizza, we got appropriate beverages, and there was this probably 12-foot table with teachers and their laptops on each side. And we were each poking through, going, okay, I've gotten to this point now. How do I fix this? And amongst that population of peers, we could say, oh, I've seen that before. This is how I've dealt with it. And then everybody collectively benefited from that particular individual's knowledge in that particular region. So as a peer group, we could gather and support each other in an area that was causing tremendous stress because this teacher may have known this particular area, but not that one. And by the time you clustered everybody together, you covered a whole bunch of stress points that no individual had mastered on across the board. And when we were done, everybody else, we got done at the end of the week and everybody walked out, kind of went, okay, I can do this. But it was supporting each other and taking the initiative across the group um, to problem solve in places that we did not see the administration supporting.
Mm.
Got out, did it, and we all felt better at the end. But again, utilizing each other.
Yeah, I like that story because it's yes, I can acknowledge what you have and what you're learning because we're all trying to figure it out sort of together too. And so it's like, well, here's what I saw, here's what I did. This worked, this didn't work. Here, learn from what I did, learn from what I've been experiencing so that you can learn even faster. You don't even have to necessarily learn it. Now you can just pick it up and do it. So I think that's really cool when you're all trying to figure it out together. And I think sometimes in classrooms it's sort of the same. Like I know myself, like I've been in situations where I'm trying to learn things, like with my peers, and we get to sort of share that information or share that learning experience. But different people are learning different things in different ways or at different times, and so we can put that all together, kind of for and with each other. And I'm thinking even Makayla, like you've shared stories from school where you have to do like a group project or you have to pick partners, right? And so your teacher tells you, okay, here's what we're doing now, find your groups, make your groups, pick your partners, those kinds of things, and go. And you've done some really cool like decision making with like, okay, I want this person to be in my group because of these reasons, right? Or like, we partner really well together because she's better at this and I'm better at that. And together we're going to like do amazing, right? Versus being like, well, these are all the people that think exactly like me and do the exact same things as me. So I only want them in my group, right? Like, you've done some really cool decision making about like, who do you even pick to do the work with?
Yeah, we're making a roller coaster as our project to describe Newton's laws.
Hmm.
So I picked this one girl in my classroom because she was great at like knowing the laws, and like I knew she was like a great explainer because she like taught me like a lot if I didn't get it.
Hmm.
So and I know I was like pretty good at building like the roller coaster, and like I could get supplies, and like together we were like, okay, well, I can like get more of the materials and we could like both build, but like I could like do a little bit more and we could both explain, but like you could do a little bit more. So it was just that kind of teamwork where we both knew, but like we kind of just got a little bit more of something to like kind of balance it out, and we can work together and like make it work out.
And that's what's really neat, where you work together, you balance things out, and you've got the ability to go across a number of different people to take advantage of each of your skills and strengths. One of the things I noticed sometimes in the classroom is, as a classroom teacher, sometimes it felt like a silo.
Mhm.
where if I don't know it, that reflects badly on me. So I can't step out of my silo to ask for help, to tap into that resource.
Yeah.
You did a great job of identifying these are the skills that this person has. This is the skills that that person has. These are the skills that I have. And together we make an awesome team. Sometimes in education, I feel like I can't step out of my box because then somebody might look in my box and see what's missing. Um, so to have the strength and the ability to look at and see these are ways that I can collect a team that produces a quality result is really an amazing skill that's for a lot of us hard to put together.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with someone I'm starting to get to know, and they were talking about so sometimes in behavior analysis, there's kind of a school of thought that well, we work with behavior, and so if it has behavior, then we're an expert. And we're having the conversation of going, but are we? Like, there's a lot more to it than just like I know this one thing, so therefore I know everything. But then it can also be a little terrifying to then say, oh, shoot. Well, that means that if this thing is my thing and you also know it, but you know it in a different way, like, does that make me worse than you? Does that make me better than you? Does that make, like, how do we compare? If we're both, we have sort of similar things, but maybe we approach it differently. Who's right, who's wrong, right? Like, and I think sometimes professionally we can kind of get into that, like that spot. I think honestly, even in peers and friendships, we can get into that spot where we're just comparing like ourself versus someone else, like where they're at in life or what they have or what they're doing or just those kinds of things. And I think when that shows up professionally, it kind of undermines the network. That you can't just say, hey, here's what I'm really good at. And I've got some overlaps with you. And I see you're really good at this and I'm not, right? Like, but you've got some pieces that I do too. Like, can we truly just honor and acknowledge each other's strengths and be awesome at that? And also kind of help each other out through it in those, pieces that maybe like the other one has better than the other. But I think that is really, really like that's, I think can kind of be uncomfortable because to say, "Hey, you're really good at something," means I'm probably not, right? So I'm acknowledging, "Oh, I'm not very good at this thing, but you're awesome at it." And to have that conversation in a way that is like, "I think you're really cool, and I think that's really amazing," and not end up being like, "And wow, woe is me. I really suck. This is horrible. Like, I should know everything you know, and I should be as good as you are," right? Like, that to not have that part of our personal experience, I think is I think it can be hard. It can be uncomfortable to acknowledge what we don't know while we're also telling other people how cool it is that they do know those things.
This week, it's Hangout Week. Immerse yourself in an exclusive interview featuring practitioners just like you who are sharing their valuable experiences. Whether you're seeking motivation, knowledge, or fresh perspectives, our interviews cover a wide spectrum of topics, even some unplanned ones. We have found that pre-recorded interviews offer the flexibility you need to listen, pause, and revisit the conversation whenever is good for you. And did we mention you can earn continuing education units too? But that's not all. By becoming a member of the TLC Network, you gain access to professionals committed to walking this experience together. Learners get access to valuable webinars, enriching workshops, and engaging guest hangouts. Supporters gain access to our vibrant online community, monthly Q&A sessions, and joint discussions in a little PLC. Clever, right? Either way, you'll be among the first to access our podcast and blog pairing every week. Nurture your curiosity, broaden your perspectives, and ignite your passion by joining us for this week's Hangout.
So I'm wondering, for both of you, have you ever had a moment where you were kind of recognized that you needed more skills than what you had at the moment, right? You needed to do something and you needed to have these skills and you just didn't. And you're looking around, you're trying to figure out how can I learn those skills? Who do I go to? Is there a website I learn from? Is there, how do I learn this thing? That you've then had to either fake it right? Like I need to pretend like I know more than I do while I'm learning this to figure it out. Um, or have you had a moment where you've kind of had to maybe be more honest in a way that might feel really uncomfortable because you had to sort of own, I don't know that yet. And I'm working on it and I will figure it out. But I don't know yet. Um, have you ever had either one of those experiences?
At one point in my teaching career, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we had very procedural computer programming languages, in
Oh,
one position I was asked to teach students how to program in a particular language that I did not speak.
yeah.
Now, realistically, computer programming is really just sorting out what you want to do, and then you translate the what you want to do into whatever language the computer speaks. So I had always had really strong figure out what I wanted the computer to do skills, but I had not programmed in this particular language I was being asked to teach. So I am a programmer. When it comes to the translation, I only need to be a week ahead of what the procedures are going to be. So yes, I stood up in front of the classroom for an entire semester, and I was always 2 to 4 weeks ahead of them in the actual syntax of the language, but could teach the whole problem solving and how to construct the solution. And then if they asked me a particular detailed on the syntax, it was, I think that's how you do it, but I'll double check and get back to
Oh, cool.
you. So yeah, smile and nod and give every illusion that you know exactly what you're doing until you don't, and then you go screaming for help.
For me, it was a time where I was reading a book with like the whole class was reading this one book.
Mhm,
So I had been like a chapter or two behind.
mhm.
And I kind of just like took what everybody was like new, and I kind of just like used anything I could and kind of like build up my own thing. And yeah, and then I asked a friend like before, like, what was in these chapters? Can you like kind of summarize it? Kind of like give me a summary of it, and like, yeah, that's what I did. So I acted like I knew everything about the chapters, but it worked out. So yeah.
I love that, like, both and you're saying, I think so. I'm not sure, but let me get back to you, right? Is because you're kind of honoring the fact, like, I don't know, but I will figure it out, right? Like, and I will figure it out, and I'll get back to you, right? And I love Makayla how you're talking about kind of crowdsourcing, right? Like, pull all the pieces together, get all the information from everybody, and to do that, you kind of got to say like, because I don't know, I didn't read it, I don't know yet, right? Like, can you fill me in? And then you put all those things together and go, okay, I know more now than I used to, and here we go. You know, we're gonna make the best of it. What kind of learning while we're doing or doing while we're learning, probably both and.
But going towards that end as well, in almost every setting I think I've ever been, I cannot represent that I know everything about everything.
Thank you, that's what I was
And
thinking.
most humans alive will acknowledge that they don't know anybody on the planet who knows everything about everything. So anytime I've been asked questions, both in a professional setting, working with students, in a community setting, I have always been ready and willing to say, I don't know that detail. I don't know. I'm straight up front. Don't know. But either I can figure out how to figure it out, or I can say, I don't know it, but that person over there has dipped their toes in those waters before. Go talk to them. So I think that establishes some credibility with whatever population you're working in, where you just acknowledge that says, I don't have the knowledge and the experience in that particular nuance. But we can figure it out. And if you've got time, we can figure it out together. And then you both develop some more um, development skills, I wonder skills, and figure it out skills.
Yeah. I love that this whole conversation is talking about like us as people and learners, and what that looks like as a student, what that looks like as a professional, what that looks like as a professional student, right? Like all of that is part of it, but it's also then how we're learning. So who are we going to? How are we relying on them? Are we relying on them so that we can learn it? Or are we relying on them so that together we can actually do it? And so I don't have to learn it. I have to learn I go to for it, which also then means that we get to draw those boundaries around ourselves to say, this is what you could come to me for, and I'm in my zone. And then these are things that you probably shouldn't come to me for. Like that's not my thing, right? Like, and it's a really kind of strong thing to be able to know who we are, to know what we know, and what we can then offer to other people. I think that's really, really neat. And I think it's a really it's like a self-confident thing to be able to define who I am and to define who I'm not, in a professional setting or even just like in a knowledge setting, what I learn about, what I enjoy learning about, and what I don't. So I think to wrap this conversation up this week, I want to kind of toss one more question your way. So when you are trying to figure something out and you're stuck and you don't have that network, you don't have those people to go to, um, how do you decide if this is something that you want to learn, or do you decide to say, okay, well, I think maybe this is a dead end for me. And then either shift the curiosity into something else. Kind of how do you decide if you like, I want to learn this thing, but I don't have the resources, or I don't have the people, or I don't have these options, and I just kind of feel stuck. How do you decide to keep trying to learn it versus just saying, like, maybe that's not for me to learn?
I'll look into like something that's pretty similar to it.
Oh, tell me more.
Like I said, I did like learning about history and stuff.
Hmm.
So like a part of history could be like the Great Japanese Tsunami, in like 2005.
Hmm.
So if like I try to find out more about that, like I could just look at like other great like tsunamis that might have happened too, and like could see how that one might have worked if I can't get off on like the other.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. For me, it's how passionate am I about a particular subject. If I'm really particularly curious and really passionate, like Makayla said, I may find a way to sidestep it, may find a way to come in a back door at it, or if I've kind of tapped myself out and I'm at the point of just that internal feeling of I'm just spinning my wheels here. Um, I need to walk away from it for a period of time. And sometimes it's walk away from it for a period of time and let my brain sort of settle on all of the bits and pieces it's collected, and then come back to it at some point in the future when maybe something that didn't make sense 6 months ago, there's a new neural connection or something where it's, I wonder if that would connect to that, would connect to that,
Hmm.
and then revisit it. And if I still go down the same rabbit hole and I'm frustrated, it's okay, time to walk away again.
Very cool. Well, thank you for the conversation this week, talking about all things learning, right? If that shows up in just our curiosity as people and, learning and growing ourselves, or if that's showing up in kind of learning within our network. Who do we go to? How do we learn things? Or how do we just lean on other people to kind of take in their knowledge as part of whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish? So thanks for having this conversation, and I'll catch you again next week.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, we want to invite you to head over to thresholdlearning.org, your one-stop destination for all things TLC. Here you'll find our blog with this episode's show notes, our ever-expanding bookshelf of resources, and anything else we've talked about. Trust us, there's a ton of benefits waiting for you to explore. Just head over to thresholdlearning.org, click on network, and we'll see you on the inside. Sharing the podcast with your colleagues is the easiest way to support the show. You can find us at Threshold Learning TLC on Facebook and Instagram. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to share the podcast. Let them know they can listen on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else they catch their podcasts. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there.